Hello and welcome to Shoot the Hostage with me, Dan, and my partner, Sarah. We're a movie podcast who talks about a different film each week based on a theme. We do swear and we do spoil the featured movie, so only ever listen if you've seen the film or you don't care too much about spoilers. If you're a regular listener, you can just skip forward until you hear the intro music because you've heard all of this before. But if you are new to the show and you do enjoy what you hear, there are a couple of things you can do to help support the show. Firstly, make sure that you're subscribed on your podcast player so you get notified when new shows drop on Mondays. You could rate us 5 stars on Spotify, which couldn't be easier. You just hit the star icon below the show's artwork. Or if you have a spare few minutes, we'd love it if you could submit a review wherever you listen. Make sure you come follow us at STH_pod on social media. We are active on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. And lastly, the biggest thing you can do to help is tell a friend about the show. So that's about it. That's enough preamble from me. Over to me and Sarah for this week's episode. Fresh off the back of Battlefield Earth, the greatest movie ever made.
I don't know if fresh is the term I want to go with.
Well, that's what we did last time.
Yeah, tired off the back of Battlefield Earth, not fresh.
I was actually exhausted after we recorded that episode.
I was exhausted after watching the film, never mind recording.
I watched it twice.
That's on you. You chose it.
That's done now. We're moving on from Battlefield Earth.
We have to own our choices as grown-ups, Dan.
Yeah. The choices are back to you this week.
Yep.
Your episode 5 is your choice. You're all the odds, I'm all the evens.
Yep.
This season. What did you choose? As if you don't know already.
I've gone with Nightbreed.
Nightbreed, a movie that you've seen before.
I may have seen this before.
Seen it, yeah.
I've seen it twice in this week. I've seen it once today.
Yeah.
But I've seen it many times throughout my life.
Nightbreed, 1990.
I've seen 3 different versions of it as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah.
I want to hear all about this because this is a movie that, well, it was your choice. Why did you choose it?
So it's something that sort of comes to mind when I think of flops. And I fucking love this movie, man. I'm not going to make any bones about it. I think it's great.
All-time top 10?
I think it probably would be in my all-time top 10, yeah. Which, look, fire shots, I don't care, ridicule me. It's not the best film in the world. It might not even be good by many people's metrics.
Doesn't matter.
But I love it.
Yeah.
And I am here to justify that.
Believe you
and
me.
I have many, many, many notes.
And we will get into your notes too. Don't feel bad about that. God, Lord knows there's one particular film coming up in this season which is dog shit that I love. This is better than that film that I love.
Okay.
So and there's no question about that.
Well,
so don't feel the need to defend it.
So straight out of the gate, actually, I think this film has a lot more defenders than I'd realised.
Yeah, it seems to have quite a cult following, doesn't it? People that like it, love it.
Yeah, I think much like The Thing, like the cult following aspect kind of came quite quickly. Because I know Clive Barker had some issues with Morgan Creek. I'm getting ahead of myself. But they gave it a really limited theatrical release and then yanked it from cinemas after horribly mismarketing it.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons it tanked. But I don't know. I think it's pretty good. I think people embraced it when it was released on VHS, and you know, it's had a little, I don't even want to say community, but like little legion of fans.
Yeah.
And I think it's pretty deserving. But then I am a huge advocate of Clive Barker and his work.
Yeah, I we'll get into sort of my thoughts and feelings on it later.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, I quite like it.
Okay.
I think it's all right. I think it's not perfect. It has its issues, which we'll get into.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, I'm like, yeah, I hadn't seen nothing quite like this before. And that's always a good thing. That's always worth a star or two in my book. If it's different and it's trying to do something.
There's so much here that's admirable.
Yeah, 100%.
Like even just speaking purely objectively.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to get dug into that. But when on my travels through the internet doing research for this, it wasn't as big of a flop as I realised.
I looked up the numbers and I was surprised.
Yeah. So I wonder if my numbers match your numbers.
Go on, what numbers you've got?
So the budget I found was 11 million.
I've got 10.
Okay. So there's a cheeky mill that's unaccounted for.
Let's call it 10 and a half.
All right, 10 and a half.
10 and a half.
10 and a half.
Yeah.
And it made, I think, 16 million internationally.
Snap.
Right. Okay. So that seems legit then.
It probably didn't make enough money to warrant its budget.
No.
But with home release, it probably did.
Well, what are the numbers? Like, does a film have to make, is it 3 times its budget to be considered like a success?
I think it's roughly double, but I think that's like a very general, like,
right.
It depends what they spent on marketing and all of that stuff, and what money came out of what budget. Like, I think I've said this before, but there's so many ways to carve that up that all you've got to go on is what was it made for and what did it make. You really can't look into it much more than that. But as a general rule, I believe it's double.
Yeah.
So it probably didn't quite make its money back. But, you know, having said that, it came out during the VHS era. It's had multiple releases over the years. I'm sure that it's made its money back.
Had some very interesting VHS cover art as well, which leads me on to my next question. When did you first come across Nightbreed?
That's a very interesting way of phrasing it. Clive Barker would be proud.
Wouldn't he just?
I remember seeing this in the video shop when I was just a young Padawan. And,
a wee lad.
A wee lad in my local video shop, which was called Super Video.
Imaginative.
Yeah. And I remember seeing the cover because it had the dude on it who's in this movie for about a second and a half.
Yeah.
The big guy who's got like a head on his stomach or something. And I saw that cover.
Like if you'd ask a child to draw Krang from memory.
Yeah. Yeah. And but that's what I remember. I remember seeing that cover at the video shop going, oh, the guy that did Hellraiser. I like Hellraiser. And I don't think I ever got to rent it. I don't know why. I'm pretty sure a couple of years later it was on Sky Movies and I recorded it. I'm not sure that I ever watched it the whole way through though. I think I got a bit bored of it from memory and I switched it off before the good shit happened. Right. Perhaps because I don't. It feels like a movie that's super familiar to me, and for some reason I get this kind of mixed up, and potentially because of the time period. But the Wes Craven movie, The People Under the Stairs, they're two movies, like not in terms of theme and stuff, but I think just when they were released. And
were they both 1990? Yeah, or was People Under the Stairs like 91?
Thereabouts.
Yeah,
yeah, maybe it was 91. But I think just in terms of a movie with a horror director attached that I really liked, Clive Barker for Hellraiser, Wes Craven for Nightmare on Elm Street, which was a childhood favourite of mine. And I think I was similarly, I don't want to say disappointed, but they didn't do the thing that the other movies did for me. Like the Hellraiser, just the look of it, the pinhead, I was obsessed with that when I was a kid. And the same with Nightmare on Elm Street. And Nightbreed didn't quite get there for me, but I don't think I ever saw it the whole way through. So it's not like a fair criticism. And, you know, I switch something off after 3.5 minutes if I'm not into it. So
yeah, now as a grown-up.
Yeah.
Let alone as a child.
Exactly. Maybe I even just like fell asleep watching it or something. I don't know. And I never went back to it. But I think it was on like a Sky recorded off television situation, which is completely legal. And yeah, I don't know if I ever went back to it. I've got a feeling that when you and I watched it together 4 years ago-ish.
It must be, yeah.
That's more or less the first time that I saw it. Let's say that, because I didn't remember a bunch of it, but some of it seemed familiar, possibly because of the artwork and just being immersed in sort of cinema culture and stuff. So, because it's Clive Barker, it's kind of always there bubbling away.
Interestingly, the first message you sent me on Tinder involved my Nightbreed t-shirt.
Yeah, we're in a Nightbreed t-shirt.
So technically this movie's responsible for our relationship.
Yeah.
In many ways.
In many ways, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so when did you first come across this?
I was a teenager. I was definitely not as young as you. And I don't remember the cover being in the VHS shop.
Yeah.
Which is a crying shame, because I think I would have remembered if I'd seen that. But yeah, I think I watched it at a friend's house when I was maybe 15.
Was it a rental?
Yeah, it must have been.
Yeah.
Because I was not allowed very many horror films, so they tended to be watched around at friends' houses.
Without knowledge of parents?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
My parents had no idea what I was up to. And no, they do now. They do now. We've had drunken confessionals on holiday. It's fine.
That's what holidays are for.
Yeah, yeah. But I just remember being captivated by it.
Okay.
Instantly. There's so much going on, which is kind of wild that I don't know, that you sort of said you thought it bored you. Because I feel like it gets straight into it. And like Dr. Decker's slashing up families within like 10 minutes. So there's some gnarly stuff going on. And it doesn't really get to the meat and potatoes of it till maybe the halfway mark. But there's so much just... I don't know, it's like a juggernaut. The theatrical version we're talking about specifically.
Yeah.
I have seen the Cabal cut at Fright Fest, maybe like, I want to say 13 years ago or so. And I've seen the director's cut a few times, most recently today. So I would like to talk about some of the differences between the cuts. But for the purposes of this episode, we will be referring to the theatrical cut unless we say otherwise.
Okay, yeah, that's the one I've seen. I've never seen the director's cut.
No,
Certainly haven't seen the Cabal cut.
The theatrical one is the one that I tend to return to the most because it's the one that I grew up watching.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, watched it at 15, watched it a lot, and then I didn't see it again until I was in my 20s. I think it was sort of that period of films were just harder to access until I got to a point where I was old enough, had my own disposable income, and Play.com was the facilitator of Region 1 DVDs and stuff that was a little bit harder to access.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it for a long time, maybe a decade, and then rediscovered it again. Saw the Cabal cut at Fright Fest, as I say, maybe, I want to say 2012. It was rough as fuck.
Well, wasn't it pieced together with found footage that was in someone's glove compartment or something?
So the story that they said, basically, it had been a project for a number of years. They'd wanted to piece together a film that was as close to the novella.
Is the book based on book?
Based on book. Yeah.
The book is called Cabal.
Cabal,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Which obviously, as we know, towards the end of the movie, is what Aaron Boone's name becomes. He is Cabal.
Boone.
Yeah. Oh no, vocal stems on the air. The Cabal cut is it was edited to match the book more closely because I think it was fine. I think the film was financed by Morgan Creek and I think it was distributed by 20th Century Fox.
Yeah.
And they butchered the fuck out of it. And I do feel bad for Clive Barker because I think Rawhead Rex came out in 1986.
Yeah.
Yes, you're laughing, but it is literally about like a 9-foot dick monster.
I know. I haven't seen it, but I know that about it.
Do you know what? It's not good.
Yeah.
But it's very enjoyable.
Okay.
Would recommend.
I'm sure we'll get to it one day.
But Clive Barker didn't like it. He thought his material had been misunderstood, misconstrued, and he didn't want that to happen again, which is why he took the directorial reins for Hellraiser and again a few years later for Nightbreed.
So Hellraiser was his first theatrical directing credit, made for £1 million in North London.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right? Spawned an insane, mostly shit franchise.
Yeah. With like three notable except. I think there's 3 good Hellraiser movies in the franchise and one that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But the rest are rubbish.
And a reboot that we really enjoyed and everybody else hated.
That's what I'm talking about. I thought it was great.
Okay, yeah.
I really liked that.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, he didn't want people fucking up his work.
Yeah. And I get that, because he's such an artist, isn't he? He's a writer, a painter. He has a very unique vision, and you don't really want anyone else to mess with that. You kind of want it to be as pure as possible. And I feel that we get that with Hellraiser, and I feel that we get that. You're more the Clive Barker person, but from the limited research I've done, certainly with how the things look in Nightbreed, it feels like a Clive Barker creation.
It does. I do think the director's cut works much better than the theatrical, though.
I'm not surprised. I mean, so Barker was unhappy with the theatrical cut.
Yeah, they chopped it to bits. They restructured the film. They took out some of the more extreme gore. They took out a bunch of stuff that informed the characters, which I think the theatrical version really suffers from, because although it's the one I always lean on, it's the one I always return to, that is largely born out of nostalgia. I do think the director's cut is a much better film. Like, I think that's a genuinely solid film. I think something that the theatrical cut suffers from is you don't get a real handle on who Laurie and Boone are to each other than they're in a relationship. That's it.
You see them at the start and they're doing a little bit of love thing, and then immediately cuts to psychiatry office, and then it's off to the races.
Yeah.
And it's kind of non-stop, but not in a particularly good way. In a way that's like, and I think a couple of times I said to you, maybe I sort of looked and said something to you for about 3 seconds, looked back at the screen like, oh, what's happened? How have they got here?
Yeah.
He was in Midian a minute ago. And it's not that you have to necessarily see how people travel from place to place to place, but in some areas I feel like we're in quite an important juncture in the movie. And I felt like there was something that needed to play out before we moved on to the next scene. So I wonder if it sort of tidies up the not literally the travel, but the movement of the movie and how characters move throughout it.
To a certain extent, yes.
I'm guessing that it's still not perfect.
No, so few films are.
Yeah. But is it how long is the theatrical cut?
Theatrical, I want to say, is about 100 minutes.
And how much extra are we talking for the directors then?
Director's cut, I believe, is about 2 hours, I think.
Is it? Okay.
And the Cabal cut was closer to like 240.
Oh wow, loads then.
Yeah.
But
they just shoehorned in everything that they found because. So, sorry, I got sidetracked. As I was saying, the guys who were sort of intent on putting together the most complete version of the film possible thought that they wouldn't be able to do it because for a long time they were under the impression that the prints, the originals, had just been lost. But they were found in an old office somewhere. I think Clive Barker's old office.
Okay.
And because a lot of the reels had kind of degraded a little bit, the Cabal cut didn't look great.
Yeah.
Some of it was like pristine quality, and then you go straight to really shoddy, sort of played 100 times VHS quality. And it was really, really jarring. It was super cool to see, don't get me wrong, but it was pretty jarring. And for a long time, we were told that there would be a Cabal cut released. And I think to date, the only company that's actually put out the Cabal cut for home release is, I think it's Shout Factory's horror arm, which is Scream Factory. And they made 1,000. And they go for silly money on eBay, which is why I don't own that one. But in hindsight, from what I remember, it's been over a decade, but from what I remember, I think Clive Barker's director's cut is the definitive one to me.
Okay. I'm sure it's his one as well. I'm sure it's the one that he favours, right?
Otherwise, the Cabal cut, I'm sure he would have pushed for that to be the more readily available one.
They're different mediums, aren't they? Obviously, you have a book, you have a movie. They are different mediums. You probably use different techniques and different scenarios. You might want to explain something in the book, but there's not really a way to translate it in an interesting way visually. So perhaps there's a reason that some of that stuff wasn't used initially. Do you know if Clive Barker owns the rights to Nightbreed still? Because I know that he doesn't to Hellraiser.
He does now.
Oh, he does he?
Well, I think that's how the reboot got made.
Oh, okay.
Because I believe that he didn't own it for a long time, which is why we got so many crappy sequels.
Yeah.
Hellraiser Hellworld, I'm looking at you. That might have been the last one I saw, actually.
I checked out, I think, at 5.
Yeah, Hellworld was the one with Henry Cavill in it.
I didn't see that one.
Would you believe? But yeah, I'm pretty sure I heard that he managed to get the rights back.
Right.
Which is how the reboot ended up getting made.
Good.
Because that was with his approval, I believe.
Okay, good. There was definitely, I didn't see a bunch of those Hellraiser sequels, but I feel like the remake was a definite return to quality, and I really liked it. It's interesting you say that it got shat on a bit.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was excellent. I really liked it.
I really dug it, but I've seen so few people getting the same thing we did out of it.
Yeah, it's disappointing because I would like to see that thread continue as well, but it probably won't.
I don't think it will now, no.
But I'm glad that he owns the rights to Hellraiser again and can control that IP. And I wonder if he owns the rights to Nightbreed then. I feel like maybe he sort of, he's starting out in his career directing Hellraiser, probably maybe a bit naive, dare I say, lost the rights, got them back eventually. Maybe he was like, I'm not going to make that mistake again. Because I think I watched a couple of interviews with Clive Barker over the last week or so.
He's fascinating, isn't he?
Pretty much the only research that I've done. And absolutely right. He's absolutely fascinating. He's funny. He's so clever, like so articulate. The way he talks, he's open-minded. I watched a really interesting interview. I watched about 15 minutes of it, and then I fell asleep because it got too late last night. It was a debate. I guess it would have been around the time that Hellraiser came out, around 87, 88, I guess. And it was a Q&A with him. I don't know if you've seen this on YouTube, but it was him and like a bunch of people dressed in 80s clothes, because it was the 80s, going, oh, why do you make bad like horror movies then? Because it makes people do killings, doesn't it?
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's the stupidest
that
questions.
Old chestnut.
But the way he, just the fact that he was up for doing it is admirable. But the way he answered it was just with respect. Like, I appreciate your opinion, but this is why I think that you're incorrect. And he was just the way he carried that was really, I really liked it. And he's funny and clever, and he's just my new favourite person now, I think. I loved his work in Hellraiser and just his visual mind. But I think I'm also now down for him as a person. It's going to be someone that I look to interviews for a lot, I think. I watched one with Craig Ferguson, which was very funny as well. When he was promoting a book about, I can't remember what it was called, but he'd written a book where he had written it from the perspective of someone that is possessed.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what that was called, but
no, I've not read that one.
Okay.
There's quite a lot of Barker's back catalogue that I haven't read. Some I didn't get on with. I don't love Weave World, but I do love his books of blood. Okay. I'm a real sucker for those.
Is that the Candyman ones?
The well, oh God, what's it called? Oh no, the Forsaken or something like that.
Right.
It is in one of them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
4, I want to say. Cabal was actually first published in Book of Blood 6.
Right.
The 6th and final one.
Okay.
Before being published on its own. And I own 3 copies.
Why?
Why not? Well, one of them was a gift and it's signed by Clive Barker.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I did have 4 copies, but somebody borrowed one and never gave it back. Philip, if you're listening. It's fine. I can survive with 3 copies of Cabal.
It's not like you don't have any left. You're fine. You're fine.
What will I do?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I don't know what else we're going to cover of Clive Barker's in terms of movies. We'll definitely get to Hellraiser because it's easily one of my favourite horror movies of all time. Top 5, easily, I would say. And I quite like Lord of Illusions.
Lord of Illusions is a kind of a banger, you know.
I think that one gets shat on a bit, doesn't it? But I find it incredibly fun. And again, it's just different. Like, it is mad. Some of the stuff that happens in it. And I don't know. That's another one that I saw, I think, on Sky Movies in the mid-90s, and maybe wasn't thrilled by it at the time. But over the years, I've revisited it a few times, and I think I like it more and more the more I watch it.
Okay.
I think it's mad, but it's great.
I think he's just got the most remarkable imagination.
Yeah, totally.
And he's a fucking sicko.
Yeah.
Which appeals to me. But I think he's kind of the perfect example of the things that come out of his brain.
I wonder where he was going with that.
Are so screwed up.
Yeah.
And so out there. But as you said, he is the most sort of erudite and an intelligent speaker, and I don't know, he just seems like a really good dude from what I've heard.
And also, like, he comes up with some fucked up shit. True, like, there's no denying that. But there's a purpose. There is subtext. There is metaphor. There is it's not violence for violence sake. And maybe this is informed by me a little bit because of the interviews that I've watched of him over the last few weeks. But it seems to me like he's not really a fan of just violence for the sake of violence.
No.
There is a reason for it, and he's trying to tap into something more, like there's something in the human subconscious, and trying to get to the root of something rather than just going, let's cut someone's arm off. That's good, isn't it? Yes, the clown did that.
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons that he sort of stepped away from the genre for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In the 90s, he sort of moved away from writing horror because he, I think, just got a bit too entrenched in it, and it didn't interest him as much anymore.
Okay.
But interestingly, so one of the reasons that he wrote Cabal at all, like I believe it was published in 1988, so he must have immediately started developing the story as a script. If the film came out in 1990, that
100%.
must have been a pretty much instantaneous thing. But he wrote it as a response to the boom of like slashers in the 80s.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Because obviously the first kind of character or violence that we see in Nightbreed is Decker, and he's a kind of a slasher character. He's got the mask on.
He's a literal slasher, yeah.
Yeah, he's doing the kind of the thing that you expect in these slash. Maybe that's what turned me off of it, actually, when I first saw it. Because I've never really been a huge fan of slasher movies, aside from Terminator, which is a slasher movie. I don't care what you say. But it's
I'm on board with that theory.
It's guns. And it's got Arnold in it. But yeah, it starts out as a slasher movie, so it's interesting that you say that it was kind of as a response to that that kind of culture that was, I guess, at its height in the mid to late 80s. It's absolutely peak.
Yeah, they were churning them out because they could be made for relatively small budgets, but could be relied on to do pretty good numbers. Yeah, and they didn't need stars to sell them. So they were just being churned out at that point. It was slowing down in the late 80s, early 90s. And then obviously mid-90s, we had the reinvention of the slasher.
It was post-slasher time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Now it's post-slasher.
Yeah, God, don't even get me started. But I think the fact that he is against sort of mindless violence for the sake of it really sort of shows in this. And again, backs up why he wanted to direct Nightbreed himself and why he felt so hard done by in the edit, because the one of the reasons that the 20th Century Fox, just reminding myself, one of the reasons that they didn't market it correctly or stand by it was because they were super confused that the monsters were the good guys.
Right. Okay.
They hated that.
Yeah.
That was too nuanced, too unusual for them. And it's also why we get that horrendous poster that I showed you, which is just the black, white, yellow with the eyes. And then it's something about Laurie's boyfriend. Like the tagline is just shit. So they marketed it as a slasher, which, my God, does this film such a disservice. Yeah. So it's no wonder he was annoyed by it.
I don't like that poster. It feels...
It's awful.
I mean, you're the Giallo person, but is that like a Giallo-esque poster with the eyes? No, I think is the answer.
I can see why you would say that.
Because it's got eyeballs.
I can see why you would say that. It's not even a very good slasher poster. It's terrible.
Yeah. But it's not... it's quite misleading, isn't it?
Oh, massively.
And,
yeah.
You'd be forgiven, like if you saw that and you went in to watch it on that basis and you were disappointed. I could understand mismarketed. Why do you think we started talking about how it opens with a kind of a stock 80s slasher character in Dr. Decker, who is played by
Daddy Cronenberg.
Papa Cronenberg. Right. Okay, before I move on with this point, we've covered a Brandon Cronenberg movie.
Yeah.
We've now covered a movie where David Cronenberg is an actor.
Yeah.
Never covered a movie that he's directed, though.
We will.
We will, but isn't that crazy?
Yeah. It's also, before you get distracted again, before you continue with that point, did you know that this is our second Craig Sheffer movie that we've covered?
Was he in Fire in the Sky?
Yeah.
Oh, he was. That was a guess.
That was a good guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great. No, I did not know that. Why was Papa Cronenberg cast in this movie?
Don't know.
Do you like it?
Do I like him in this film?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's great.
I'll be honest, I didn't initially.
Okay.
His performance really grew on me over the years.
Oh, interesting.
And I think he is superbly creepy.
That's what I like about it. He's so calm.
But to me, that is the most terrifying thing. Yeah. Like, if I'm down the pub and a grown man is screaming in my face, my instinct is to laugh because they're ridiculous. If that same grown man is very calmly and very softly speaking the same threats, terrifying. Genuinely terrifying. If people are calm and softly spoken, instant terror.
Yeah. I really like his performance. I like how calm and calculated that character is. I don't fully understand why he's doing the things that he's doing, and maybe that is part of my criticism of the movie and in general of why people are doing the things that they're doing.
Okay.
But I like what he is doing. I like how it looks and feels and sounds, and I'm just like a bit, ugh. I don't like this guy, but that's what you're meant to feel, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's interesting as well that he is playing a psychiatrist. What are we saying about institutions in this movie? Because we've
I don't know. It's so subtle.
Subtlety often is lost on me, so you might need to hold my hand a bit here. But so you got the slasher guy who's a psychiatrist. You've got the police force who are just being dickheads in the movie for some reason.
Yeah.
You've got a priest in this who I guess is representing the Christianity, the church, or religion in general. I don't know. What are we saying about these things?
I think Clive Barker is saying, fuck your religion, ACAB, and don't trust mind doctors.
Okay.
I don't know. On the face of it, it does seem quite an anti-religion, anti-authoritarian stance.
Is it?
But I think there is a bit more nuance than that.
I think so. Like, and again, maybe derived from a little bit more of the digging that I've done into the man. But I feel like it's more how humans use these institutions as a kind of a mask, as a cloak to do terrible things. The lynch mob at the end when they're going after I'm sure we'll get to the climax of the movie, but they're doing it in the name of the Lord, and because God and we are the righteous people and you are evil and you're Satan's spawn or whatever. Like,
if you were to remake it, they'd all be wearing MAGA hats now.
Yeah. But it's like it's the humans that are using those things as an excuse to enact the horrors that they want to. We don't agree with this thing, therefore this thing should not be allowed to survive and live. And I'm doing it because this is God's will. It's like, no, God's got nothing to do with it, mate. You've put that opinion upon that yourself.
You're persecuting people based on a book.
Yeah, but but it's not even that. It's just based on your own interpretation of the text.
Yeah.
It's like
often a misinterpretation.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like all these wars and violence that are enacted on people because they read a bit of some words in a book and they go, "Oh, he didn't want to do this thing." But if you skip forward 4,000 pages, it contradicts that point.
Yeah.
So which bit are we fucking listening to?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it, isn't it? It's whatever bit you want to listen to, really. I just wondered if he was. So it's something I've been thinking about a little bit, because you do have those institutions in this movie, and I think that's the big three: the psychiatry, the police, the church, and the religion. And I was surprised that the priest popped up in the end. I think I'd forgotten about that character because so much going on in this film as well.
Ashbury? Is he called
Is that
Ashbury?
what his name is?
I believe so.
I'm relying on you. I don't know. I know Boone, and I know Laurie,
and Decker,
and I know Decker. And when it comes to the monsters,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to be going to you, spiky cultural appropriation guy. I'm going to be going guy with face and stomach. He's got the spiky dreadlock things.
Oh,
Peliquin. Sure.
Yeah.
A guy what tears his own face off with the cool hat.
Narcisse.
Yeah.
Who was apparently named after the only Haitian zombie, allegedly.
Okay. I was going to ask about that character, because doesn't he say, when you first meet him in the hospital,
mm-hmm.
where Boone is this after Boone's been drugged by Decker?
Yeah, so again, the director's cut makes that a lot clearer.
Right, okay.
Because in the theatrical cut, Decker just goes, "Take these pills," and Boone goes, "Okay, nom nom nom," and then he's just stumbling in the middle of the road going, "Woo!"
I would.
Well, yeah, I'm sure.
Me at a festival.
Free, you say? Give it.
Yeah. No, I would never do that.
In the director's cut, rather, the pills are given to him. He goes home, and then he starts hallucinating at home. Obviously, he's just been told that he's a murderer. I think crazy or not, I would probably have more questions than he does.
Yeah.
I'd be like, but no, I'm not.
Yeah, I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, I don't think I am, actually.
But he had the dreams.
He did have the dreams, yeah. He's obviously seen Dr. Decker for a reason. And Dr. Decker's just sort of gone, I can pin my crimes on this guy. What was his thinking behind that? Because is he just going to stop his crime spree? Because if he can no longer pin it on Boone, would the police not be like, well, these new murders match the MO of that dead guy? Who is it this time? I just don't think he thought it through. Anyway.
So is he just retiring at that point?
I guess
just
so.
Hanging up his hat.
Yeah.
I've done my bit now.
Hanging
Maybe
up his sack head.
Yeah.
Mr. Bottomface.
Maybe he's done cleaning the world of Did he
breeders.
Say trash breeders?
Breeders,
well, he's got a point. No. He killed Captain Hollister, which is my one main criticism of him, because he was in that Chris Barry show, which I promised to mention this week.
Oh my God. I can't believe you actually found a way to work with Dwarfin.
When Hollister appeared on screen, I was like, that's it. That's my in.
I was making a joke.
I know.
How have you done it? Oh my God.
Well, thank Clive Barker and his casting agent for putting Captain Hollister in. Post Red Dwarf as well, I would say.
Bloody hell.
After he was in Red Dwarf.
I wouldn't have clocked that.
No. Okay.
Well done.
But yeah, all right. Well, he wasn't in it for long, to be fair.
No. But yeah, so there is a much more extended sequence where Boone goes home and he's tripping balls in his underwear. And obviously, having just been told that he's a murderer, he sets fire to like his passport and a bunch of documents and photos and stuff, and then hallucinates Laurie being there and them having sex. And then he's out. Then he goes to the club to see her sing. Right. And we get that. Just give us like a snippet of the song. We don't need the whole song. It's such a terrible song.
Okay.
It's awful. It's so bad.
And it goes on for a while.
And it goes on for, it feels like 7 minutes. It's not.
We just forward it, can't you?
Oh, it's so bad. That's the one thing I wish they hadn't put back in the director's cut. Clive Barker was obviously very attached to that song. And to be fair, like Anne Bobby is great, but awful. And then he leaves without speaking to her, and then he's traipsing through the road and ends up in the hospital.
That's when he goes to the hospital, because Decker in the theatrical cut the scene prior to that is Decker, take these pills.
Mm-hmm.
You've got 24 hours to hand yourself into the old Bill.
Yep.
Otherwise, I'm going to do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that hung up on that. Like, he took the pills, and I just was like, oh yeah, he's seeing him for a reason. He's hallucinating. He's having these dreams of Midian. What confused me is why the psychiatrist was so fascinated with his dreams about Midian. It's almost like Decker knew that it was a real place that existed, and he just seemed to be fascinated by it. I don't know.
I'm not sure about. I think he was fascinated by it, yeah, but I think maybe he hadn't heard of it until Boone started talking about it.
Because it's also when Boone gets to the hospital and he meets Narcisse asks him about Midian, and he's, oh, do you know where this gaff is? I really want to go there. Plus, now I'm going to cut my face off. And
as you do.
For reasons. Yeah. So it feels like it's like this like underground club that only select a few VIP people
it's
know about.
It's a goth club.
It's a goth club, yeah.
Complete with a percussionist that bangs on the wall.
So I don't know what is, like, thematically I get why the psychiatrist character wants to destroy it and why that works through the narrative of the movie. I just want to, maybe more literally than metaphorically, why he gets to that point and how he gets to that point, why he assumes that it's a real thing rather than just going, my patient needs help. This is not real. But then, yeah, why is he also trying to pin the murders on Boone? Is there a grand plan here that is not fully fleshed out that maybe might have been more explored in subsequent movies?
Maybe.
Because he's...
It was, I believe, intended to be a trilogy.
A trilogy, okay.
I think. I remember reading that a long time ago, which kind of brings me to my biggest criticism of the theatrical cut, at least. And that is that obviously a lot of things happen and we do have a beginning, a middle, and end, and there's a climax, but it's very open-ended and it sort of feels very much like setup.
Yeah, 100%, yeah.
Which is my probably only and biggest criticism about the film.
Okay.
But I find it easier not to pick apart the whys and the wheres and the hows because it's in the prophecy, Dan.
Yeah,
it's prophesied.
I suppose so, yeah.
It's written on the walls.
I'd forgotten that we got to that bit in the movie where there's a crayon drawing of Boone being bitten by a spiky cultural guy. Yeah. We'll get to the end. We will get to the end. I do want to discuss the end of the theatrical cut versus the director's cut and what the differences are, because I've not seen a director's cut, and it's quite different from what I understand.
It's not massively different.
All right, forget that then.
It's just restructured with about 20 minutes of additional footage.
Okay.
I think maybe they removed some bits as well from the theatrical. Okay. But it definitely works better as a proper film, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So it's about an hour before. Was it about an hour before we get to actually Boone joining the Nightbreed?
No, I think it happens before that.
Does it? Okay.
Maybe at the halfway mark.
So he gets shot by the police.
Mm-hmm. But he's already been bitten, so the bite is what brings him back.
He gets bitten by
Pelican.
Pelican.
Pelican, yes.
And because he's been bitten, he's got the blood, so that when he gets shot and killed, he becomes the Nightbreed. Or is he already a Nightbreed? That's not clear to me.
He's Jesus.
He's literal Jesus.
He's Nightbreed Jesus.
Hang on, is that a Boone mask?
Yeah.
There? Oh, yeah.
And there's a Dr. Decker mask up there as well.
We should be wearing these masks for this podcast.
I feel like the sound would be a little bit more muffled.
Yeah, it would be.
The Boone mask is shit.
I mean, we've got to do something with those for the stories or something.
We will.
What was I saying? So Boone gets gatted by the old Bill.
Yeah.
By old mate from Holby City.
Oh yeah, when did you turn into Danny Dyer? Gets gatted by the old Bill.
Yeah, because Decker says, "Oh, he's got a gat on him. Mm-hmm. You better plug him now." And he gets plugged, and then old mate from Holby City is like, "Yeah, ain't got a gat, man." and And then he dies, gets taken to the morgue, and somehow ends back at Midian. But at that point, he's dreamt about Midian. He's tried to get there. He's been killed, and now he's accepted. And he gets tested by the bowl of jizz. Right?
Yes.
Yes. You had to actually point out to me that not Dirk Gently, Dirk something.
You're talking about Lylesburg?
Dirk Lylesburg, yeah. What's Dirk Gently? I feel like that's a 90s detective show or something.
Isn't that like a Garth Ennis
I'm
thing?
going to Google this. What is Dirk Gently?
Is it Douglas Adams or something? I don't know.
Dirk Gently.
It's based on book.
It's Stephen Mangan. Yeah, that's a blast from the past. What was I saying? Old mate, Doug McClure.
Lylesburg. Oh, Doug Jones.
No, not Doug Jones.
Doug Bradley.
Doug Bradley. We got there in the end.
So there are 3 Cenobites in this movie.
Right. So he turns up there, and Doug Bradley's like, "Put your hand in this bowl of jizz, and we're going to see if you're an actual Nightbreed." So my question is: was he a Nightbreed before he got bitten by a pelican, or was he? Or did he become a Nightbreed when he got bitten by the pelican?
I think you should do recaps of movies on YouTube.
I can. When I get some time, I'll happily do it. So, but that's my question. He was dreaming of Nightbreed, Midian and Nightbreed.
Before he got bitten, he was a natural.
And that means you're not a Nightbreed. You're just a regular human.
Yes.
But he was dreaming of it.
But he was always fated to become one of the Nightbreed.
Okay.
To become one of the tribes of the moon.
So when
and save them.
So when
save Baphomet.
When we'll get to that. So when Pelican bit him, he was like, "I'm going to bite you, man, because you're on our ground now.
You're on our turf, fam."
Yeah, and I'm a bit
something.
I'm like a sort of a baddie, I guess, the most baddie of the Nightbreeds, apart from the Berserkers.
He's a dick.
Yeah, he's a bit of a dick. But does he know about the crown drawings on the wall in the cave at this point? He must have seen them, so he knows that he's doing the thing that's on the wall, but we're led to believe that he's acting out. And Chin Headman is
Kinski.
like, "Don't," that guy. He's like, "Don't do that. That's naughty." But he's like, "I'm going to fucking do it anyway." But should I not?
Fuck the law.
Fuck the law, man, yeah. But he does it anyway. It's I don't know, it feels a bit weird, doesn't it? I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't either, but it's fascinating. Carry on.
But I think that's what this film for me is, though. Like, I can't quite work it out, and that's part of the thing that I find interesting about it. Like, it gets from one place to the other, and maybe it's a bit messy, but I'm like, but why have they done these things? This is fascinating. There's
clearly a very distinct vision.
Yeah.
But I think, it's not necessarily constructed or explored or explained in totally adequate ways.
And what about in the director's cut? Is it explained any better there?
That bit specifically?
Yeah, I suppose so. Okay.
Not really, no.
Okay, but so it's just a prophecy, and we have to accept that it's a prophecy.
Yes.
Okay, I can do that. I can live with that.
But in the same way that Christians are like, we just have to accept what the Bible says.
Yeah.
We have to accept what it says in Cabal.
Okay. We're in Midian. I suppose that's when the movie really gets going. In terms for me, I
guess so. But to me, like, it's sort of non-stop.
I mean, it's definitely
it's just like a non-stop Gatling gun of shit happening.
It definitely rips through the narrative, and you're going from one place to the next without much breath.
Yeah.
But for me, I guess what I'm trying to say is like where it gets really interesting in terms of getting to Midian and seeing the creatures and the set design and just the imagination of all of the costumes and prosthetics and matte paintings again.
Matte paintings.
Yeah.
Do you know who did the matte paintings?
No.
Ralph McQuarrie.
Ralph McQuarrie, who is a human.
He was a human. He's an ex-human.
Right.
He was most famous for a lot of the concept artwork for Star Wars. He did the matte paintings for Star Wars. He did the concept designs for like C-3PO and Darth Vader. So he's like the dude. He's the guy.
It didn't have anything to do with. I think maybe he might have done initial concept designs for the thing.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. I feel like that's something that I remember from my research before we recorded that episode, but maybe something we didn't talk about.
Okay.
Threads. Interesting. Yeah. Beautiful matte paintings in this. Again, just something that oddly I wouldn't have expected it in this season, but something that's come up again and again and again.
Right.
And
I think this film is such a showcase of lost art forms.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny, that's definitely a recurring theme in almost all of my choices this season. Empire Records is the outlier.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think I'm so taken with films that showcase such imagination and just craft, the craftsmanship and the techniques used in this. Like, we've got the whole gamut from matte paintings to like in-camera effects, which granted looked shit, but still. There was a bit of stop motion. There was a sweaty puppet at one point.
Yeah. Oh, the Can't Go in Sunshine puppet.
So cute.
Oh, it's disgusting.
So cute.
Let it burn.
No, so cute. How dare you? But yeah, miniatures. They used miniatures, forced perspective. It's all there. It's so creative. And I think that's the number one reason why I love this movie so much.
Yeah. And I really like it when it gets to like I said, I quite like this movie. It has sort of a charm to it. There's
You just
so
don't
much,
like Babette.
So is who?
The sweaty puppet.
No, I don't like the sweaty puppet. Let it burn. There's so much, like you say, there's so much skill involved with it. It's such a vision. I admire its
very ambitious.
Ambition. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah, I admire that totally, and it's unlike anything else. I wish we would have gotten more from it, but equally, I don't mind being left on a cliffhanger. But I think I was thinking back to when I was a child. I think when I saw that cover of the VHS, I knew it was Clive Barker. I knew it was the Hellraiser guy who came up with the Pinhead and the Cenobites and all of that creative monster fantasy stuff, which I loved in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then this opened with the slasher element. I think I just wanted to get to the monsters.
Right.
And because it takes a while to get to that, it's probably why I sort of checked out of it. And I love this when it gets to that. For me, I feel like it just takes a bit too long, perhaps. I know you get cutty off face guy and pelican bitey shoulder guy. But
Moonface.
But when it gets to Midian and we're just underground for 20 minutes or so, I'm just like, oh, look at like every frame. I'm just like want to explore.
Particularly the sequence where Laurie's sort of stumbling around trying to find Boone, who's gone to see Baphomet, and she's sort of encountering all of these different creatures and the amount of work that must have gone in. And as you've already said, for some of them that you only see for seconds,
it's crazy, and
then you might see them again in the background of a shot. It's nuts. The amount of work that must have gone in is just next level. I
really love all that stuff, and I just would have loved to have spent more time in that world before all hell breaks loose in the final act of the movie, which I quite like that. But I would maybe have liked to spend a bit more time there.
But that sort of ties into my one criticism, really, is that it sort of does just feel like build up and world building.
Yeah.
And we don't, sadly, get enough time to fully explore that because the subsequent movies were shit canned. It's such a crying shame.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier, like you were asking if Clive Barker owns the rights to Nightbreed. Honestly, I don't know, but I hope so. Because for maybe the past 15 years, there have been rumblings of a potential TV show. And I want nothing more. Because I think... I don't know who I would sort of cast in the lead roles. I don't think Craig Sheffer's super charismatic.
Are we talking...
But he's a
talking a reboot, are we? Reboot TV show. We're not talking...
Well, yeah, we would have to, right?
Yeah. Well,
you can't get Craig Sheffer now. He's well old.
Yeah, you put him in makeup. Don't matter, does it? He's a monster now.
But I don't know. I think there is so much scope for like a mini series, maybe like 6 to 8 hour long episodes. I would eat that shit up.
I haven't read the book, but from watching the movie and feeling like quite a lot of the major points in the movie could be fleshed out more.
Mm-hmm.
I'd agree. Like a mini series would probably be a good shout. I did watch a Q&A with Clive Barker. I think they had just screened the director's cut.
Okay.
And he was super thrilled that he got the chance to watch the director's cut, and it got a release. I think
I'm so happy that happened in his lifetime.
Yeah,
he must have been so gutted.
He was thrilled. I want to say it was about 2015.
Yeah,
perhaps.
that sounds. I think the director's cut was released in 2014, so that tracks.
Yeah, around about that time. But he was very happy that happened, and I think someone mentioned about a potential TV show or something at that point. Maybe it was when that started bubbling around. But he was a bit coy about it. He sort of said, yeah, there are sort of talks, but I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So it feels like it's something that he wanted to happen, but didn't. Obviously, 10 years on now, it's not happened so far. So it's disappointing.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a money thing. I think there'd be some of the I mean, we've got another fucking Jack Reacher show on Amazon Prime at the moment. Why aren't we getting stuff like this with
honestly,
real imagination and like you can get a proper budget behind it?
I would love nothing more, but I do appreciate from the perspective of the people in charge of the purse strings, I understand why it would be a hard sell. But I think if it's in the hands of the right people, it could be incredible. And I think with Clive Barker's, it would have to be with Clive Barker's involvement, or somebody who's prepared to give his original texts like the appropriate reverence.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I want to see him in charge of his own properties.
I think the thing that worries me is I don't know how much time he's got left on this mortal coil.
Yeah.
He doesn't look like a well man, sadly. So I hope it happens soon. I really do.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a new Clive Barker thing as well. Just in general. I'm sure he's got a bunch of ideas, and I'm sure there's a bunch of people out there that would love to work with him. I know we've got, obviously, Flanagan is doing the Stephen King thing at the moment. Maybe not Flanagan because he seems like a super busy guy, but someone that is of the same skill level or a similar skill level with the same reverence for horror and vision and commitment to source material and narrative flair. I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is. I know.
Look, I've racked my brains. But nobody jumps to mind.
But if you're not going to get Barker, then maybe let's have Barker being the granddaddy overseeing things, and we could get someone like a Flanagan in who's shepherding that vision, perhaps. It's probably not going to happen, is it?
I would be very surprised at this point. I think if it was going to happen, it probably would have done by now.
I'm going to immediately go back on my point because I think that eventually all things happen. And
in an alternate universe, it's been wildly successful. We've at least got that.
Yeah, exactly. There's been this in an alternate universe. There was one underperforming Hellraiser movie and 15 terrible Nightbreed movies.
Yeah. But it's been rebooted and they're in their 6th season now.
Yeah.
Just about to get syndication.
Yeah. But should we talk about the final act of the film?
We can, or we can dig into some of the themes.
Let's do themes first.
Okay.
And then that might take us into final act. What themes? Okay. What are themes?
Themes.
What are themes?
Well, I don't know, like much like Hellraiser, there's definitely an exploration of how pain is linked to pleasure. That's definitely in there to some degree, more so in the director's cut.
Okay. You might need to hold my hand on this one.
I think the most prevalent theme is obviously something that keeps cropping up this season and is going to continue to. I just love movies about weirdos and outcasts. I want to root for the outsiders.
Yeah.
And it's becoming increasingly obvious to me as I age and I look at the films that I keep returning to. I love stuff like this. So I wrote a big sort of thesis when I was in college about small soldiers.
Okay. I like where this is going.
And just how films can sort of present the notion of not judging a book by its cover, basically. I love it when that's explored. And I think it's done really well here. And it's not as if the Nightbreed are, yeah, they're scary looking. And it's not like they're all pillars of society.
Some of them are dicks.
Some of them are dicks, exactly. There's shades of grey there, which I love. Much like the humans, some of those are decent people. Most of them are crap, but some of them are not. And I think it does really well just exploring those grey areas and those nuances, but very much presenting a whole, this is what can happen if you persecute people who don't look like you. This is what can happen if you persecute people who live differently to you. And obviously knowing that Clive Barker is a very openly gay man, it's impossible not to draw that parallel. I mean, the film is pretty gay. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's quite camp in places.
Yeah.
Which a lot of horror is. Horror and queerness is super interlinked. And I think that the biggest sort of takeaway is that it's about small town, small-mindedness, not judging people, finding a way to coexist.
Yeah, I like that. I like because like you say, the monsters are, some of them are dicks, and the biggest dick for me is the pelican guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got other people that are nice. You got Dirk Gently, who seems like a kind of a nice leader.
Lylesburg with his face eyes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, face eyes. I thought they were gills at first, but then at the end of the movie I went, oh, they're actual eyeballs. Okay. Yeah, it's like, and you said earlier that perhaps the studio were nervous about that because it was portraying the monsters as, some of them as sympathetic, and maybe some of them aren't bad guys, some of them are dicks, and there's a sort of a mixture like human beings.
Yep.
And that is super interesting.
It's a much neater, concise idea to just present the people who look gross as the bad guys.
Yeah.
I think audiences are a bit more ready to embrace that idea, but that's only because that's what they're fed constantly. I think if we have more stuff like this that's challenging the status quo and going, well, they might look weird, but they're really nice. They're just like you and me. Except, they live with snakes and eat organs. I don't know. I don't know. I think, which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's
the egg.
But do people have these narrow-minded ideas because they're not presented with enough dissenting information?
Yeah, I would say that probably is the case. And that's exactly why we need people like Clive Barker to present these ideas. A self-confessed weirdo himself.
Yes.
He's like, well, I have these ideas. This is who I am. And they come out of me, for lack of a better expression. And I think if we expose people more to it, perhaps there might be some more open-mindedness, hopefully.
But also, I think everybody's got a little bit of weirdness about them. And I think when you damp it down, that's when it can turn into violence and self-hatred, and you turn that outwards.
I totally agree. I think it's nice to explore our differences. We all are different and weird in our own ways. And I think it's healthy to embrace that. And that's what makes you interesting, right?
And not condemn people for having fucked up ideas.
Exactly.
Just because you think a fucked up thing doesn't make you a fucked up person.
You can't control your thoughts. Thoughts pop in your head and you go, that's weird.
Yeah, that was messed up.
Not going to do anything with that thought.
Yep.
And then sometimes you're like, that's weird. maybe let's explore that. And it's a bit, we're human beings, and we know right from wrong for the most part.
Well, that's it. Your weird thoughts don't dictate your morality.
No, but your weird thoughts are part of who you are, and to explore that is to explore human nature.
Mm-hmm.
And who wants to live? Certainly not me. Who wants to live in a world where everyone is a stock person? Just goes to, and they wear a suit to work, and they get on the train, and then they come home and they watch EastEnders and The Bill. Maybe in 1993.
I don't. Is The Bill still on?
I don't know. No, but like, I don't know. It's nice to live in a place where people are different and you get exposed to different ideas. I fucking hate going somewhere and having the same stupid conversation about who's on Love Island. I don't give a fuck.
Or even talking about deeper things, but being stuck in an echo chamber, that's not good either.
No. Well, no, then that brings to mind a conversation we had this very past weekend, actually. He seemed interesting, but then was just spouting things that he'd listened to on Joe Rogan, I think. Yeah, I think.
But it's good to know what's out there.
Yeah, I'm all for people embracing their differences, and isn't it? I find it a bit ironic that this movie didn't do very well. Really, almost sort of proved a point in a way.
Yeah,
and I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I think there were a multitude of factors as to why this film didn't do well, but yeah, I think people's unwillingness to embrace something a little bit different, is certainly one of them. But going back to themes, I want to sort of come back to the religious angle.
I wanted to get there.
Okay, good. I'm interested to know what you have to talk about. I don't know this for a fact, but I would speculate that Clive Barker was potentially raised in a Catholic household.
I don't know for sure, but I get that impression distinctly as well.
I would put money on it. And there are several things that may lead me to that conclusion. So Midian was a real place, for starters. It wasn't underneath a cemetery.
Was it in Norwich?
It wasn't in Norwich either, no. Certainly wasn't. It wasn't in Norwich. It wasn't in Calgary. It was where what we now call Saudi Arabia, basically, but it wasn't back then. And in the Bible, it's sort of tied to Moses, that guy.
You see the bad one?
Ish. He killed a guy.
I'm thinking of Judith.
Judith Iscariot. So he killed a guy in Egypt, and the Pharaoh was going to exact punishment, but Moses was like, nah, I'm out. And he fucked off to Midian.
Right.
Into self-imposed exile for like 40 years, which makes sense. These creatures are in self-imposed exile.
It's not really self-imposed exile, though, is it? Because that's side question. In a director's cut, do we get more explanation about the origins of the Nightbreed and what happens in the Dark Ages where they all get slaughtered in a theatrical? Oh, okay, that's a shame, because that was super interesting.
I absolutely love that vision. Is that where Laurie, Babette touches Laurie? Rachel's like, show her.
Yeah.
And she sees that. Oh, so well done.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Somebody should do a cut of Event Horizon and just insert that footage.
Yeah.
For what happened to the former crew.
Yeah.
It's not more explored, sadly.
Okay, that's a shame.
But yeah, there are a number of religious references. Obviously, we've got the priest who becomes, I wouldn't say a pivotal character, but a relatively important character in the second half.
Yeah, it feels like he would become more a part of the plot in subsequent movies.
Yeah.
Well, the way that the theatrical cut ends, anyway.
That is one of the biggest differences in the director's cut. The director's cut still slightly open-ended, but is just way more satisfying. But we don't see Ashbury resurrect Decker with the jizz.
Did he throw jizz at his face?
I think he puts his hand inside him. This film is so gay.
It fits him.
This film is so gay. Although there is a lot less jizz in the film than in the book. I will say that.
All right.
Make of that what you will. But yeah,
maybe you should read it to me as a bedtime story. We'll see what happens.
Sure. Yeah. Which one of my 3 copies would you like?
The one that's least slimy. The one, the one that's laminated.
When I said it was signed by Clive Barker, I mean with a pen. This is John Hancock, not his fluids, thankfully. Although that might go for more on eBay.
Yeah, definitely would, yeah. We could clone him.
Yeah.
We could clone him, get him to make a Nightbreed TV show.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, start a side business of selling jars of Clive Barker spooge. I don't know if there's much market for that.
We could start with that, I guess.
Yeah, let's clone him. Let's go back to your thing.
Yeah. We could have little Clive Barkers running around. Like mini-me's, but Clive Barkers.
That sounds horrendous.
Oh, that sounds fun to me.
I don't know why, but I'm picturing the little things from the gate just running around. I don't know why my brain went there.
That's the difference between me and you, isn't it? You think of the gate, I think of Mike Myers.
Yeah. Oh my God, that
like,
is.
in a nutshell.
That's always distilled.
Help, I'm in a nut. How did I get in a shell? Where were we? What are we talking about?
Well,
Religion themes.
Yeah. So I'm interested in your take. You said you wanted to talk about the religious angle. So what have you got to say?
Nothing really.
Oh.
I just No, I was super surprised that the priest turned up in it, and I wondered where it was going to go. Part of me thought that maybe the priest was going to come around at the end, particularly when he gets turned, I guess you would call it, turned.
Well, he sort of does before that. He's kind of... It just sort of feels like he's along for the ride.
Yeah.
Literally, because they're just like, right, you're coming with us. And then there's a point at which he tries to stop, I don't know, the sheriff, the head policeman.
The guy who just absolutely loses his mind.
The top dog.
Yeah.
The guy who was in Altered States.
Oh, was that the guy?
Charles Hayde, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Right, yeah.
He does actually sort of like tap him on the shoulder and goes, "Excuse me, sir, you're killing children.
Yeah,
this isn't cool. Please stop that." So he's kind of on the side of right until he sneaks into Baphomet's chamber and gets the spooge to the face.
Which is 100% on him, because he like trips and like spills it on his own head.
Absolutely. He touched the fire and he got burned.
Yeah.
It's his own fault.
I was wondering what his arc was going to be at that point. I use arc loosely because we don't really meet him until later in the movie. But when we met him, I was interested to see where it went. And as you say, he does seem reluctant when they're starting to just kill all of these creatures and children just because they don't like them. Mm-hmm. It feels like he's going to have... he's maybe going to do the right thing, if you want to call it that, if we're being black and white. But he doesn't. He spills the jizz on his face. He gets burnt by Baphomet, and his hair falls out. And is he a Nightbreed now? Is that how that works?
Technically.
So is it that he now sees this thing in himself, and he doesn't like that, so now he wants to kill that?
No, he's got beef with Baphomet.
What?
Because he's like, they burned me. Okay,
so the statue guy...
He's not a statue, he talks.
Does he talk in the movie?
Yeah.
What does he say?
Because he says to Boone, like, save me from my enemies. Heal me.
He does say that, yes.
And he's the one that tasks Boone with finding a new home. He's like, homes aren't forever.
Yeah.
This was inevitable. I'm paraphrasing.
It was written in crayon on the cave wall.
It was.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really have much more to say about the religious angle other than more the character. And I wondered where he was going. And I kind of would be interested to see what would happen in another movie that happened in that alternate universe that we spoke about earlier. How does that play out? He resurrects Decker at the end by fisting him, as you say.
Yeah.
And then I guess in the sequel, Decker's back. But now, plot twist, the mask lives on his head because that's his real face.
I don't know.
We're talking about real identities and like what you're pushing down and what is your real face and stuff.
Yeah,
So,
he has that line, doesn't he? Like everybody has a secret face.
yeah, and his secret face is the mask. He's a bit like Batman in that way. Like Batman is
he's just like Batman.
He's the real guy. Yeah, it's like the Ben Affleck one, just killing fucking everybody willy nilly. Doesn't give a fuck.
Yep.
Batman does not kill.
That's a discussion for another show.
We'll get to BVS one day.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh God, I
my
can't
seat.
wait. But yeah, in the director's cut, it is very different.
What the ending is different.
The ending is very different.
Can you explain to me how so?
So one of my biggest gripes with the theatrical cut is that it just fucking ends.
Yeah.
There's all this climactic stuff, like the fantastic effects with the miniature where the truck kind of crashes through.
I love that.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
Brilliantly done. 11 million budget. Seriously. They stretched it so well.
If this came out today, I'd be saying that is 90 million.
Yeah, maybe more.
Yeah.
If you scale everything up,
yeah.
I don't know. Look.
Anyway, Hellraiser was made for £1 million.
Yeah.
That blows my mind. This
they did
10
brilliantly.
Million. Yeah, Clive Barker can work with a budget.
Yeah. So we have all of that, and then in the theatrical cut, it just sort of cuts to, you've got the bit with Baphomet saying, you know, save me from my enemies, and then you see a bunch of monsters in a barn.
Yeah.
As the camera pans away, and that's it. It's such a weird, abrupt ending, but it feels like there's going to be more. Which is that I hate that ending because that is the most sort of stay tuned for part 2 that we don't get. And it pisses me off. So in the director's cut, everything sort of plays out very similarly, but there's a lot of extra scenes. Decker does not get resurrected. There is a bit with Ashbury. Decker does not get resurrected.
What does Ashbury do then instead of fisting
it's
Decker?
It's more or less the same. He just doesn't resurrect Decker. We don't get that scene.
Okay.
And then it kind of cuts back to Boone and Laurie. They escape. He's talking about, I have to go and help the Nightbreed now. I have to be their leader and find them a new home. And she's like, but I went through all of this fucking shit for you. You're just going to leave me now? And he's like, mate, I've got to go. Soz. And she's like, but what? I literally walked through hell for you. And he's like, don't know what to tell you, ma'am. And she's like, fine, go. Again, I'm paraphrasing.
There's a woman with spikes on her back who needs to be rescued.
Sassy.
Yeah. Tuna what?
Shuna Sassy. Not
right.
tuna.
Yeah.
Shuna Sassy.
Porcupine.
Yeah. I love the fact that it's like Shuna Sassy, Kinski, Narcisse, Rachel.
Yeah. Which one's Rachel?
The one who can turn to smoke.
Oh, yeah.
Who seduced did a naked seduction of the prison guard.
There's a bit of we hate you, but you're quite sexy in this, isn't there?
Which was an homage to Toby Hooper's Life Force.
We covered that movie, didn't we?
Did.
The Patrick Stewart one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's fascinating. What other movies homaged Life Force?
Very few, I imagine.
I didn't love that movie, but I love that it's referenced here.
So they have this conversation. She's holding Decker's knife that she pulled out of the wall. And he's like, farewell. And she's like, psych, and stabs herself.
Okay.
Because she was saying, like, make me one of the Nightbreed.
Right.
And he was saying no. So she stabs herself and he's like, shit, now I've got her. So he bites her. There's a moment or two of like, I'm too late. And then she opens her eyes again.
Okay.
And it sort of ends with them staring off into the middle distance, silhouetted by the sun setting.
And then that's when I walked into the front room earlier, where there's the picture of them both holding hands. Mm-hmm. And was that meant to be like a cave painting as part of the prophecy?
That was part of the prophecy, yeah.
Like they are coming to help the Nightbreed together, like as a couple, like a power couple,
as a unit, a power couple.
Yeah. All right, okay. It does end very abruptly, the theatrical version. It doesn't fully work, but I don't hate it. I think I'm left on a cliffhanger, and I really want to see where it goes. But equally, I'm happy to be left to my own imagination. It's like the ending of Inner Space, where
always got to bring up Inner Space,
where Jack Potter, like, it's further adventures. He thinks that someone is going after Tuck Pendleton and Lydia after their marriage, and he chases after him in a car, and you're like, oh, there's going to be further adventures here. That's exciting. Wouldn't it be fun to think about what those further adventures would be with Martin Short and Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan? But you don't need it. Like, the imagination is good enough, I think.
Or like the end of Mac and Me when he blows the bubble in the car, and it on the bubble it says, "We'll be back."
Yeah, brilliant.
And they never were.
Yeah.
But I still get to think about how many more cans of Coke and bags of Skittles they would have eaten.
Yeah.
So...
Or at the end of
Happy times.
Masters of the Universe, if you carry on to the after the end credits, where Frank Langella pops his head up above that pink, the slime, the river of slime, and he goes, "I'll be back," because that worked in a franchise before, didn't it? And he never was.
I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah. You see me talking about Encino Man.
Yeah. But he will be back, but 45 years later, and he's going to be replaced by Jared Leto.
Oh, God.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed the ending of this. It's crazy. It goes mad. In that final act, it just erupts into absolute carnage. It's almost like a war movie.
Yeah.
And I like kind of that left turn that it takes. It feels surprising, but equally fitting. Like,
it sort of veers into like classic monster movie territory, because it's the villagers with the pitchforks, trying to hunt down Frankenstein's monster. Yeah,
absolutely. And I like that. And it feels like it's a fitting climax to what we've seen before that. And you get a lot more of the monsters. And I think the one thing I would like to see more of is, we mentioned, these berserkers, don't want to let them out, and we let them out. It's like, well, where are they? What's happened? What have they done? They do a bit, but like, you don't. They
did some killings. They did some murder.
But it feels like they were built up quite a lot. And I maybe would like to have seen more carnage. So it's like, well, you're not as bad as they said you were, are they, you berserkers? I mean, and maybe some of the humans to get a bit more of a bit more of a comeuppance, I guess.
Yeah.
You get that one dude who's just like, oh, she's spiky and she's got boobs. I'm like, oh, no, walk in there.
Men are so easy.
You're an idiot, mate.
She's literally a human porcupine with tits, and you're entranced.
She spites you in the back. Come on, mate. We've got to be smarter than this. But then they're not smart people. They're following the crowd.
Yeah.
They are like, that's wrong. And because they say it's wrong, and God in this and that, and just not thinking for themselves. So I can let that go. It's funny to me.
If these people were real, they'd all have bought supplements from Alex Jones.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, nootropics.
Yeah.
100%, yeah. Like you said earlier in the show, they'll be wearing MAGA hats.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite like this. It's weird. It's one of those movies that I enjoy watching, and there's so much skill and craft in it and imagination that I can understand why I like it from that perspective. But then part of me is a bit confused on why I enjoy it as much as I do. Now, I think I watching it for the podcast, I've maybe come down a peg after the last time that I watched it.
Okay. With a more critical eye, you mean?
Only because of a more critical eye. Like, as a piece of popcorn, I think it's great. It's just silly. Some of it doesn't make any sense, but as a narrative piece, there are obviously some glaring holes, which you can't deny.
Yeah, no, I can absolutely see why people thought the theatrical version was lacking.
Yeah.
And even the director's cut, it's far from being a perfect film. But like you said, I just think there's so much imagination on show, so much skill, so much craft, so much care, that whether or not it was butchered by the studio, mismarketed, mishandled, I don't know. It's
misunderstood.
There's something there.
Yeah. You don't get movies like this.
No.
It's so rare, and Barker is such a visionary. Even the best horror directors are nothing like him. And obviously he was inspired by older works, but he has his own thing, and that's once in a generation. You don't get that, and I feel like the further away from release that we get from Nightbreed, the more, for me anyway, that I appreciate it.
Yeah.
For the ambition and just what it was trying to do and what it is, not what I want it to be or what it could have been. It's like, no, that's pretty awesome. Like what they came up with and what they did for that budget.
It's imperfect, but it's magic somehow.
Yeah, it's a fascinating movie, definitely. And I think we should definitely watch this director's cut at some point. I think I would definitely like to.
Yeah, I'd be really interested to see how you feel the two compare.
I guess I'm kind of interested in watching a Cabal cut. Not for 150 quid, I'm not. What was it, 500 quid or something you saw it going for on eBay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy money.
I'm not 500 quid interested. But...
I think the director's cut is better than the Cabal cut.
Okay.
I think that was a little bit flabby, if I'm being honest.
And also, like, if some of it is a bit grainy and doesn't look great, then
I assume they've been able to clean it up some.
There's going to be a version of that in 10 years' time where it just looks crystal clear, where AI is just filling in all the gaps. But I guess out of the 3 cuts, I'm most interested now to watch the director's cut. If that's the one that Barker, that's the one that he lends his name to,
his vision,
the director's cut.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely would like to see that, and kind of wish that we'd gotten to watch it maybe, but you've seen it, we're able to talk about the differences. So and I've only seen the theatrical cut a couple of times, so maybe wasn't a bad shout, but
and fragments of it as a child, maybe.
Yeah, it's the cover. It's the cover.
Yeah,
that's pretty much most of the thing what I remember from this movie. But,
which one is your favourite monster?
Ooh, my favourite monster is the dog.
That was the dog was belonged to one of the crew members.
I heard this. Yes.
Little Boston Terrier, so cute.
Yes. Who was my favourite monster? Ooh, I don't know if I have a favourite monster. I hated Pelican, but he's probably the most memorable, I would say. No, I think I like Porcupine Lady.
Shuna Sassy.
Yeah. What about you?
I don't know his name, but I'm quite fond of the guy who feeds blood to his fish and has the 2 tentacles that come out of his stomach.
Oh, Lord, I'd forgotten about that guy.
And he's the one who goes, "There goes the neighbourhood."
Yeah.
I like him.
He's very unsettling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I didn't care for that. What's he going to do with those fish?
Who knows? Are the fish even okay? Are the fish Nightbreed?
The fish are Nightbreed, I think.
Yeah.
So the dog must be Nightbreed.
So there's aquatic Nightbreed.
Yeah. It's not just humans.
Or maybe they're just animal people. Maybe they just like creatures.
The snakes are Nightbreed that live on the steps.
Yep.
The fish are Nightbreed. There's probably rats in there that what are Nightbreed.
Mm-hmm.
Microbial creatures, microscopic creatures, they're probably Nightbreed.
Amoebas.
Amoebas, yeah. There's probably like some lizards in there. They're probably Nightbreed.
Sea monkeys.
Sea monkeys. All sea monkeys are Nightbreed, whether they're in Midian or not.
That's true. Yeah, that is canon.
Yeah.
So we covered it.
Yeah, finally covered it. It's something that I'm guessing you wanted to get to. You've not covered this before.
I've never covered this before.
All of your time podcasting, Radio Gore Press.
I know.
You had a horror podcast.
I do.
Why did you never get to this?
I
should have asked you this up top.
Honestly, I don't know, because my first ever horror podcast was with Jamie from Final Transmission.
I listened to their Nightbreed show, actually.
Yeah, he covered Nightbreed before
Yeah.
I did. But I don't know. I think much like The Thing, when you love a film so much, when it's so close to your heart, it's a little bit daunting.
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous to record this. I wanted to do it justice. And I feel like my thoughts have been a little bit unclear and I've been a bit meandering, much like the movie. But I'm so glad that we finally had to sit down and talked about it.
I think we've had a very interesting discussion, even if I do say so myself. I've enjoyed this chat. I think there's plenty to dig into there with the film, with the creator, with what it was going for, what it tried to do and didn't quite achieve, what it could have been, what it is, and appreciating it. I think there's loads to dig into. I'm amazed that you haven't covered it, but I totally hear what you're saying. When we inevitably get to Terminator 2, I'm just going to be like, oh, but I love the bit when he takes the skin off his arm. And I feel like I'm not going to be able to do it justice because it's just going to be me going, I love this film.
Yeah.
And it's a masterpiece.
Well, I'm just glad that you get something out of Nightbreed and it wasn't just another show of me going, this is amazing. And you're like, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, you didn't need much convincing, which makes me happy.
When you sort of said you're going to put this on the flop season, I was like, yeah, that's a good choice. It is a flop. Obviously not as big of a flop as...
It's not an Empire Records.
It's not a Police Academy 7. It's not a Battlefield. Is it a Battlefield? I can't remember. I'll just put that movie out my memory.
Never think of that again.
Yeah. But I feel like maybe this might be peak Sarah's picks this season, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing aside, there's maybe one other movie which I think is quite good. But
and another one there's not.
Yeah, you've got how many you got now? You've got 7 and 9, so you've got 2 more after this. What are yours? And one of them is not good. But I think it's going to be fun.
And I won't try defending it. It's terrible.
No.
But it's great at the same time.
But here we've got a nice mixture of incredible. It was a weird decision, and it's just but interesting ideas and what they were trying to do.
But if you want to delve into the world a little bit more, I've got all of the Nightbreed comics.
Okay,
and the Nightbreed Hellraiser crossover comics as well.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds interesting to me.
There was also a game for the Amiga, but I don't have that.
A Nightbreed computer game?
There was a game, yeah. I think they really banked on it doing big numbers at one point.
On the Amiga, you say?
On the Amiga. I think so, anyway.
God, I haven't heard the word Amiga in 27 years. Is that the one with the green and red buttons on the number pad?
I never had one.
I don't. Is it you've got 17 floppy disks and you have to put one in, and you're like, right, put that in and grab my dinner for an hour, and I can play the first 4 minutes.
What, unlike now, where every time I want to play a game on my Xbox One, I have to go, fuck, it's a 40-minute update.
Try having a PlayStation. PlayStation's even worse. 4 hours. I haven't played Gran Turismo in 3 months.
So the graphics are better, but we haven't really come on that far.
Not really, no.
What are we doing next week?
Back
to you.
I'm glad that you asked. It is back to me. We're back on the even numbers next week. We are doing a movie that neither of us have seen.
I think the only one this season that neither of us have seen.
Okay. So it's a bit of a gamble in that sense. It's a movie that I feel I chose it because it was a flop, apparently, but also it's something I feel like I should see as a fan of film and cinema.
Same.
And auteur directors, directed by Marty Scorsese. It's the King of Comedy.
Interesting.
It feels like a bit of an outlier in this season. Battlefield Earth, Nightbreed, King of Comedy.
What else? What other theme could you get those 3 in?
Yeah. It's one that I've meant to get to for a while, and I think it's on one of these free streaming platforms. Hopefully it still is. King of Comedy up next week.